Right. Hey everyone, how we all doing today? This is the beginning of the first of many videos that myself, Pensions Guy, Waleed, and Neelam we're going to be doing together. And the idea behind this is we just got talking through social media, and we just thought, why not put some content out there, put some information out there to people who want a better idea of what to do with their finances. So, guys, as you know, I always talk about pensions, investing, and so on. And the great thing is, Neelan talks about debt and budgeting and how to get your finances in order. So we thought, let's do these joined up videos together. Get a really good strategy, the best of both worlds. And then that way, hopefully, you guys can get all your finances in order from both aspects. So hope this helps, and yeah, keep watching, stay tuned. So what we're going to do is just going to ask each other some questions and find out a bit more, and then if this helps, then guys, please like, share the videos, contents, etc. So Neelam, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Waleed, and thanks for that great intro. Really excited to be doing this. And even though we've not met in person, although I think a lot of sort of lockdown collaborations are probably going that way, it's been really great connecting with you through a mutual contact in social media to, I really feel like, add to some of the work that I'm trying to do in opening up conversation around personal debt. And I have to admit that pensions is something that quite a lot of people have asked me, in private and also via social media, because it's something that we all tend to know about, contribute to, but we don't really understand. And that's me included. So I'm really, really glad to be partnering up with you on this money series. And I've promptly forgotten the question that you asked me just about myself. I think that was probably part of it already. So I'm Neelam. I am by no means an expert on personal finance at all, simply qualified by my own experience and a lot of the mistakes that I've made. And so I really just wanted to be that person to be that awkward person to open up conversation around personal debt, finances. So often, what I'll find anyway, you just don't know how have people bought that house, manage their finances, what is going on with their budgeting, how, aside from maybe having a very well-paid job, how are they always eating out and have been able to save up for a deposit? These are sort of questions that were rumbling around in me. And at the same time, I wasn't revealing much about my finances either in conversation with people. And that's often because I was then putting a lot of my expenses on a credit card and didn't want people to know. So I just thought, what, I want to hear more about this. So I'm going to open up conversation and have started a little sort of a blog on Instagram. And that's when we found each other.
Excellent. Great. Yeah. And as I said, it's the whole purpose of the collaboration is just approaching things from both angles. Almost, I talk about investing and you often talk about budgets and debts. It's almost like a bit of a yin and yang. And also the irony about it is remind me again, where are you based, Neelam?
Based right now, I'm in Southwest London.
You're in Southwest London. I was going to say I'm also in Southwest London. We're not together. We're not living together, by the way.
I was just going to say, I actually didn't know that bit of the information. I knew you were in London, but I didn't know where.
I thought you were North London. Actually, I thought you were North London. So I thought this was a nice North-South London. No. This was a North-South London collaboration. But anyway, guys, look, as I said, this is just hopefully this helps. But really, really useful. So yeah. A bit about sorry, I was going to say just a bit about Neelam, and then do you want to ask me?
I was going to say now maybe over to you, because I don't think you've introduced yourself. I know you're the pension guy, but to that.
Yeah, cool. Again, who is the pensions guy? So guys, look, I've said this on my Instagram and so on, but I don't mind reminding you guys again. I'm in my late 30s. I've been married for many years. I've got a 3.5-year-old daughter. I've worked in finance for probably the last 15 years. And to be fair, the time has just flown. You get into your career after graduating, and before you know it, you're sort of 15 years into it. And, this is something that is quite close to my heart because, I just feel that finance, and especially people in our age, in our generation, just don't know enough about, general financial planning. So, I'm on a bit of a mission to educate me. That's where the pensions guy came along. And a lot of people have asked me this question as well. Why are you called the pensions guy? Well, I'm sure if you go onto social media, Instagram, there's all these, the money mentor, the money coach, whatever. There were thousands of sort of names out. And the one thing that I do always preach about and tell people is get a pension. And if you've got a pension, if you don't have a pension, get a pension. And if you've already got a pension, then start paying into your pension. And if you're paying into your pension, then start reviewing your pension. So pensions are something that quite close to me. I think not enough people know about it. So hence the name the pensions guy. But yeah, that's me.
Yeah, no, it's making me very I'm feeling a bit sort of that that FOMO. I don't have like a really fun name for what I do. I'm just Neelam with the debt blog, I suppose, at this point, budget blog. So, but anyway, work in progress. Maybe I can come up with a fun name as well. So you've told us a little bit about yourself. So you live in Southwest London, probably just around the corner without me knowing, married and have a young child. Maybe we can dive straight into some of the questions around personal finance. And if I might start by asking you a question. I was wondering, what is the most common sort of issue or worry that people come to you about regarding pensions, apart from maybe, should I have a pension? Like, what are the sort of most common issues that people are facing?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, if I was to sort of look at it in a slightly broader term, so not just even pensions, like finances in general, so, pensions, savings, investments, and so on, I would say that the one sort of common denominator across everything and my sort of years of doing this with clients from different ages, different stages in their life is just not having enough money. That's simply it. If I was to sort of look at the early stage, so when I see, when I used to see young people and they would say to me, I want to buy my first property, for example, and I say, well, okay, how much have you saved up? And it just wasn't enough. Okay. Similarly, later on in life, I'd see clients who are close to retirement and they talk to me about, and that was quite hard actually. They talk to me about their dreams, like, oh, I want to, go and travel the world, and I've worked for sort of 35 years and I want to spend more time with my grandchildren and do all these lovely, nice things that most people aspire to do at retirement. And then the hardest thing for me was to just give them a reality check, which unfortunately was the truth. But I say, look, great, but I'm going to be honest,
that's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. And that was hard because I think, and I always say, in order to do your job well as an advisor, you have to be quite brutally honest in many ways, because I think if you don't, then people don't take action. So to me, that was the biggest throughout every stage in life, regardless of whether it was at the beginning of the sort of financial life cycle or later on. I just found people just didn't have enough money, and that was an issue. It was very rarely, and occasionally I did find clients who had everything sorted, and these were people that had amassed tens of thousands of pounds for their deposit, or they had hundreds of thousands of pounds in their pension fund and they were sorted. But that's very uncommon. Certain circumstances, people left inheritances or insurance payouts, or you got some people that were just really good savers. Very, very rare, but that's not the general public. The general public are quite clueless. So common denominator across the board is just not having enough money.
And I think also it feeds into that whole piece around people perhaps not talking about it. Like, how often do you sit down and chat with your friends about, do you have a pension? How much are you paying in? Should I be? It's just not something you talk about. So I kind of feel like it just gets forgotten and ignored. Which like you say, you then get to the end of sort of your working life and suddenly think, oops, I don't have enough in here. And so that house in the Bahamas isn't going to work out.
No, it's not, and it's quite sad because I always used to see the expression on people's faces when I was like, right, great, because you get really excited when you're talking to them, telling you about their plans, like, great, how are you gonna get there? And like, ouch, but the key to any financial planning, as you could probably appreciate, the same with sort of budgeting and debt management. It's as they say, that classic saying, isn't it? Failing to plan is planning to fail. Get ahead.
I like that.
Get ahead. And even with pensions, it's a very taboo subject because people always associate pension with retirement, which it is a form of retirement planning. But I always say to people as well that a pension isn't your only form of retirement planning. There's so many different investments you could do as
Right.
a form of retirement
Interesting. Yeah.
People always think pensions are a form of retirement, and because of that sort of psyche that it's retirement planning and pensions, they think I don't need to worry about it until I'm 50 or I'm 60. Wrong. That's
Yeah.
the worst mistake you can make,
Mm-hmm.
because the earlier you start addressing it, the sooner you make changes, whether it's the contribution levels or how it's invested, or just start early, the bigger the difference you can make at an early stage. And then it just means that you're almost like on a sort of straight trajectory, and it's
Yeah.
whereas it's very hard to sort of pull your pension back in if you've got hundreds of £1,000s worth of shortfall, and it's time to sort of start paying in, because no one's going to like being told you've got to pay like thousands of pounds right in the last 10 years to just get your
get where you want to be.
Start early.
I think also because sometimes, it's a little bit like, and this is a bit off topic, where people say like, look after yourself, love yourself, do good for yourself. I kind of feel like it's the same with finances sometimes. Look after your finances, prepare for retirement. Like, it sounds really good and something I want to do, but how do I do it? What are the actual practical steps? And I think that's where I often can struggle with these instructions around prepare for retirement, invest in your pension. Like, I sort of understand what that means, broadly speaking, but, I really benefit from someone giving me some practical tools like, okay, download this app, or calculate this percentage, or like I think you've said in some of our conversations, think about what you want and then calculate backwards. Like, this is sort of a more like practical instruction that I think people would really benefit from. Plus, my big hope is that more and more schools will start really talking about this in a serious way, so that young people leaving education, once they get their first paycheck, are like, okay, I need to keep an eye on pension and how much I'm going to be putting away for the future, for example. Anyway, that's my sort of little.
I almost think that's part of the problem, that the system is designed to not help young people, because I've said this for many years, and even when I first got in the industry, I was like, why did they not teach you these things in school? Why did they not?
Question.
And then I almost think, like, is that the way the system's designed, because you're just designed to pay thousands of pounds into student loans and then get into debt? And is that how companies and organizations make money? I'd love for this to be incorporated in the curriculum, but I do just sort of worry, as is it almost sort of challenging the status quo a little too much and disrupting the system. But I think it's definitely is subjects that need to be spoken about. And if you're not told by your parents, or not educated by your parents, or your sort of much more wiser friends, then unfortunately the only way you got to learn is by learning on the job and learning yourself. And in order to learn, we've all got to make mistakes, and hope that those mistakes aren't going to be the types of mistakes that come back to haunt you. But that probably leads quite nicely onto sort of the debt and budgeting side of things. So tell me about why is sort of debt management and budgeting, why is that so close to your heart?
Because I have, since I had so I started working full time when I was around 16, 17. I'm a bit hazy on the ages exactly, but I think I was about 16, 17 when I started my first full time job, because I decided not to pursue A levels full time. But anyway, that's a story for another time. And pretty much 3 years in, I remember insisting that I needed a new car, and I can even still picture going with my dad to have a look at this lovely Golf, and deciding I needed it. The Mazda D-Reg that my parents had offered me for free to run around in Derby just wasn't cutting it for me. So, I was like, I'm independent now and I want a car, and I know this is £12,000 and I don't have it, but I've got a job now. And I just had no clue. So I took out a loan for, £11,000-12,000, and was left paying off this debt well after the fact of even owning the car. I sold it and didn't make the money back. So, and that sort of just then spiraled into this sort of like, just normalization of, oh, that's just what happens. People just have debt. It's fine. Everyone has credit cards. Everyone has debt. You just, as long as you can afford the monthly repayments, you're set. So I just carried on this behavior throughout life, well into my 30s. And only about 2 years ago did it sort of really hit home. Hold on a minute. There's a different way of living. I don't need to be tied to.
Yeah.
Exactly. And also, it just gives you a level of, I want to say nearly freedom, when you feel like you don't owe anybody anything. You know, yes, you earn your money. You probably, you know, I'm not there yet. You know, might have a mortgage, but I just didn't want to be a sort of, you know, constantly paying those monthly loan repayments. And it was getting to the point where actually a huge chunk of my salary was going towards credit card and loan repayments. And I just wanted to break that cycle. And nobody else was talking about it. And I had a couple of friends who I buddied up with, and they kind of knew about it. And I was, you know, always talking about how can I, you know, really sort of knock this debt on the head. But, oh, I really, really want to go to New York again, or go on that lovely third package holiday this year. And I deserve it. And, you know, if I can put on my credit card, that's fine. That's what people do. And I just wanted to stop that. And I came across someone who can be a little bit controversial at times. He's got some very conservative beliefs on many matters, but he really speaks to me on financial matters. Is a guy called Dave Ramsey in the US.
Yeah, you've mentioned, yeah.
And he really has that sort of instructional way of talking about money, and it's not just sort of wishy-washy plan for retirement, talking about stocks, investments, and he just makes it sound so hyper simple. And actually, it doesn't matter how much money you have. He kind of talks more in percentages and really maximizing what you have, and that you can live within your means, and sort of helping me to sort of be really comfortable with, it doesn't matter how much I earn, it matters what I do with it. So anyway, that's sort of I could talk for hours about.
No, and that's a great point, because
like, I don't want to cut across you, but I don't want anyone who might be watching this video, who might be reading the blog, thinking, because I always used to feel like that any money management or anything related to personal finances was only really worth it if you earn a big salary. Like, no, you can earn from minimum wage to, you know, millions a year, and these principles can apply, and you can really work your personal finances with some of the tools that I've acquired.
Definitely. And the point I was just going to say was, you know, the key, the sort of the key measurement, or the key thing between, you know, whatever it's coming to investing or managing, you know, credit cards or personal loan or car finance, it's just budgeting. You know, it's the focal point, the cornerstone of any financial planning. If you don't have a budget, you can't do anything else. And this is why I always say that. And, you know, because I've watched a few of Dave Ramsey's videos, and there's loads of other kind of, you know, very motivational speakers. And the key thing they will tell you is it's all about discipline. You know, you've got to have a level of discipline. And I think the problem in today's society as well is that unfortunately people lack that, because it's almost like we're too focused on the wants as opposed to the needs. And it's like, I want this, and I want this, and
I want it now.
And I want it now. We're part, you know, we're always part of that instant gratification and want that. But it's fine. And I probably came from a bit slightly old school generation, and maybe it was just the way my upbringing was, but it was like, you can have this, but you've got to be prepared to give this up. And I think
wait until you have the cash in hand.
Exactly. And that was sort of the mentality that I was sort of ingrained with. And even, you know, and that was just some, you know, some knowledge when I was younger, but then obviously it became more apparent as I started doing this as a job. And I was like, right, if I want to, for example, start investing £1,000 a month, right, and I've got only £800 disposable at the end of the month, then what am I prepared to cut out? Okay, I'll tell you what, let me not spend as much on clothes, and let me not go out as much. Let me cut back both of those costs by £100 each. There's my extra 200, and now I can invest £1,000. And that's what people have to realize. You can achieve your financial goals, but this takes a really, really good hard look in the mirror, and you have to say, what am I prepared to give up? Because unfortunately with life, you can't have it both ways.
And I think that's something that was a real, no pun intended, but the penny literally dropped for me, where it was, you know, a matter of, I don't need to be chasing something actually that I can't afford, a lifestyle that isn't within my reach. It's okay that I am where I am. You know, I'm comfortable there. I'm happy to be there. There's nothing to be ashamed of. I actually feel quite empowered now, and quite confident to say to my friends who are very supportive, actually, I can't join you at that restaurant, you know, not because I don't have the money for it, but I'm intentionally wanting to use that money to actually save for a deposit. So that's just saying it in that way has helped with my mind shift, as opposed to thinking and saying, I can't afford that meal. Maybe you can't, in reality, maybe you can't, but actually to frame it in a different way and say, I'm choosing actively not to spend that money on that meal. I'll join you for a cup of tea at the end, or let me invite you over for a cup of tea at home. I'm actually going to use that £30 and put it towards my savings goal. Yeah. You know, and it's sort of like a mind shift set.
And I love that, because that's maturity coming through.
Oh, it's taken me a long time.
Yeah.
And I just hope that I can, maybe through this sort of the message or what I'm, you know, discussing, maybe I can help just one or two people have that penny drop a little earlier for them.
Absolutely. But no, it's saying, you know, that's maturity coming through experience. And look, don't sort of beat yourself up about it, because I've always said, and I read this somewhere in the book as well, they said, well, it's almost like your 20s to your 30s are your like discovery years. So they're the years that you can make some mistakes, you can have a credit card debt, you can go out
absolutely
and have a massive splurge, because look, if you don't do those things, then you're never going to learn. And unfortunately, you may learn when it's too late. You may make that mistake where it could have a much bigger impact on your life. For example, you know, you're married and you've got kids, and all of a sudden you've spent a load of money and you're going to miss your mortgage payments. That has a bigger impact. So 20s and 30s are all about learning. But then I always say,
I agree,
it's all about that evolution, that transition. So then your 30s to your 40s, you start getting a bit more sensible with your money, you start planning. And I've always said, like, your 40s to your 50s and even 60s are sort of your really good years, the years where you've got all your plans in place. Hopefully you're in a good position in your career, or whatever you're doing is earning good income, and you're literally just following that path. And, you know, it's almost like an analogy I really like to use is like a plane that takes off. You know, like you're on the runway. Initially, it's a really bumpy ride. Then it starts climbing, which is really difficult. And then once you get up to something like 38,000 feet, then you're on cruise. You're cruising, aren't you? And that's
plain sailing.
Plain sailing, exactly. You're plain sailing, and you're plain sailing for the next 20 odd years of your life. And then you start thinking about the landing. Fingers crossed. But then you start thinking about the landing closer to retirement. You know, you don't start landing. You know, if you're going to fly to Cape Town, for example, you're not going to start landing in France. You'll start to bring the wheels down, probably about 200 miles away, closer. So it's the same as financial planning in many ways. You know, it's that uphill part, which I think a lot of people struggle with, is the uphill part, because the climb is always the hardest part. But once you've made those changes and made those commitments, hopefully then you want to get into plain sailing territory.
Hopefully, yeah. But anyone who might be coming across this, who is, you know, 40s, 50s, and you still feel like, gosh, I've never budgeted, I'm not doing, you know, my debt repayment, you know, at an accelerated speed, it's never too late, you know. I really think that it doesn't matter where you are. And exactly. And also, like you say, no shame in if, you know, you do have credit cards, debt, you know, or loans. Absolutely not. You can actually make an active choice that maybe you want to live like that, and that's okay. But if you don't, there are tools to live without. And I think that's also where the budget, and again, I feel like my budget empowers me, because, you know, I can look at it and say, okay, now I've put, I don't know, I actually have a budget, like a line for candles and flowers, because I like to put them in my apartment. But some months where maybe I want to have that extra meal out, I'm going to have to knock that 30, 40 pounds out, and then I'm not going to have candles and flowers that month. But the fact that I can visualize it and see it just gives me control. And also, I'm not looking at my bank account at the end of the month and suddenly thinking, oh gosh, I bought the candles and I had that sushi, and now I'm overdrawn by more than I should be. I feel like the budget stops me from going there. So it's not just for big ticket items, you know, it can be for small bits.
Yeah, but there's the same with financial planning. Again, you know, I'm never going to sit down and tell a client to go and put £500 away into a pension, or, you know, go and invest 1,000 if they've only got a couple of £100, because then they're having to make decisions. They're having to do something where they're not capable of. And this is the thing: budgeting is the key. I mean, obviously, it is budgeting, and then there's sort of, you know, extra sort of micromanaging budgeting, where you literally breaking down your finances. But I think the key to get the key just to get started is have a budget. and start somewhere, and then you could start
Absolutely.
drilling it down further to, okay, my typical entertainment costs consist of, cinema, eating out, dining out, bars, restaurants. Can I reduce some of that? Then you could start micromanaging it. But
Love
start,
micromanaging my budget.
yeah, but as we said, it's about refinement, isn't it? That's how you're getting to that stage. But you've got to start somewhere. You've got to have like a basis to start with,
Yeah.
and then you kind of keep reiterating, keep changing as you go along.
Yeah, and as I've said in one of my sort of blog posts is, maybe you've never sat down and done a proper budget, but it's already really helpful to just sit down, grab a cup of tea, maybe a glass of wine, and just actually write down
or whatever you like.
Yeah. Whatever you want, what are your outgoings, what are your incomings, what debt do you have, where's your pension fund at, what is going on, just to get that picture. Because I think sometimes even that can be a big step, and it's already helpful to understand, okay, this is where I'm currently at. It doesn't have to be micromanagement to the point of itemizing for candles and flowers like I do.
But then I always tell people, review your budget at each checkpoint, and that checkpoint is a change in your circumstance. So say, for example, you've got a new job and you've now got an extra 50K of salary. That's a change in circumstance. You're going to go to have a child. That's a change in circumstance. You're going to take some time off work. That's a change. The budget should always be revisited. There's no point of having a budget and then just letting it carry on. You need to review that budget every time.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I look at my budget every week. I look at it, and then I look at my bank account. I enter the figure again just to be sure to realign, because that's really my moment to also see, oops, I actually overspent here, and then I can sort of readjust. But maybe I'll probably talk about that in more detail.
Yeah. No, that's
another session. But I feel like I could talk about this for hours, and I sense we're probably going to start running out of time soon. I still got a couple of questions here, which I thought was quite interesting, seeing as we're both from sort of a South Asian background. I'm half Punjabi. Maybe you can tell us a bit more about your heritage and upbringing. But I was just wondering whether you feel that there's like a different lens through which sort of South Asians view money in your experience.
So again, I'll just answer the question. I mean, nothing exotic here. I mean, my father was from Pakistan, my mother was actually born in India, and then won't get into politics about the partition. But they were both from what was the subcontinent, but UK born and bred, etc., etc. But we tend to have a lot of those old-fashioned values and traditions sort of drilled into us, and I find Asians, South Asians, I'm not going to say, so when we talk about Asians, obviously, Chinese people, etc., but to narrow it down, South Asians, I find that the approach to finances is almost quite blasé, and it's quite narrow-minded. Okay, so two examples I give you. When I say it's quite blasé, it's a bit like oh, I'm not investing, or investing's not for me, or sometimes I would hear like, oh, it's bad for you, it's you can't do this as part of a religion, or etc. So
right,
that was some of the things I used to hear. And then I'll go a bit further and say, honestly, the amount of conversations I had with some aunties sometimes, it was like, oh, you need to get some insurance in place. Oh, no, God will protect me. And I'm like, I get it, but God's not going to give you hundreds of thousands of pounds to pay your mortgage off. Well, hopefully it happens, but as I said, there's that blaseness about a bit too much ignorance. And then the other side of it is also around we're very narrow-minded in the sense of there's so many different investment options, and I think we're very lucky living in the world where we are now, because obviously you've now got the digital era now, and lots of investing platforms are online, which I've spoken about in my videos. Gone are the days where you had to go and see a financial advisor and do them. The DIY investor is more common, but us Asians, South Asians, we still fixated with this idea about property, and it's like, I'm going to invest in property, and it's like,
I mean, it is a good investment.
Absolutely, it's a great investment. It's a great, and I always say, if you're going to invest in property, invest in the property for yourself first, because ultimately you're buying a home. You're buying a base, and you're not paying someone else's rent. You've got an asset.
Yeah.
And hopefully, you just keep upsizing and upsizing. But this sort of obsession with buying a property and then I'm going to buy another property and buy another property. You know, being quite honest, the game's changed. Gone are the days 20 odd years ago when you can walk into the bank and get on really well with Mr. Bank Manager and say, "Oh, could you lend me another mortgage?" and I'll do it. Those days are gone. I mean, if you want to go to the bank now, they literally ask for everything. Can your waist measurements? If
I hear it's quite tough. Yeah,
of course it is. The criteria is very, very tough, and also, property just doesn't have that same inflationary impact anymore. My parents' example of it. The house that they earned, 20 odd years ago was probably worth about 70,000-80,000. It's worth 800,000, 900,000 pounds, probably almost. But am I going to buy a house for 900,000 pounds now? And in 20 years' time, is that house really going to be worth 9 million? I don't think so.
Probably not. So actually, it was kind of right for them at the time.
At the time,
yeah, but it kind of doesn't work for us anymore. So maybe we missed that educational.
Exactly, and this is the point. Look, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with property investment. It was great, but it worked at the time. The game's changed now. Time's changed. The nature of investing and options and even the growth of property is not the same anymore. But as I said, we're so lucky because there are so many alternatives out there.
That's true.
There are so many other options available. Whereas before, if you wanted to invest in a property or you wanted to invest in stocks or shares, you'd have to see a financial advisor or a broker or someone. Now you can do so many things yourself. So yeah, I find South Asians, it's difficult because I think I very often find that South Asians, through good education and just hard work and tenacity,
do very well.
Do very well. They've got themselves in a really good place in their career and earning well, but they kind of need to lose that little tunnel vision a little bit and think outside the box.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, definitely. My experience a little bit of so my father's from India, is actually that it's not talked about much. It's like he would often say to me, and they're incredible. They're very well, they've got their own sort of personal finance journey, but they're very good at, I think also owning where they are and how much they earn and what they can do within that and being content. I think that's number one. But second, they're very good at saving and also having access to Punjabi cuisine. They've actually always been able to be really frugal with food because, you can eat dal for days and days and days. I
can eat dal for days, to be fair.
It's so good. In fact, all those jokes and memes about like when your mum says it's dal and they look disappointed. I love dal. I don't mind eating that for days.
Everyone's gone vegan now, haven't they? So yeah, there you go. That dal and turmeric are now very, very
in, exactly. But I kind of felt like it was never really talked about and amongst family as well. And although I was always very aware that families always helped each other out, especially in that process as they were sort of migrating and like leaving India, I really liked that sense of community where people would always step in for each other. But I didn't feel like anyone really talked to me about it. And it was kind of always also, and you have that sort of gross exaggeration on goodness gracious me when it's just like people showing off. And there was a little bit of that, it was like, people would come to your home and they would say, oh gosh, this is a very small home. And that was actually said. So you kind of felt like, oh, we're not doing very well. So there was that weird thing about not actually talking about the real nugget at the personal finance, but then making a big show of comparing and trying to have the biggest wedding, the biggest house. And again, I might be oversimplifying here, but I think there's definitely an interesting dynamic.
And I think South Asians, we have a problem of chasing other people's goals, not our own goals. It's like you gave a perfect example about the wedding. It's like, yeah, but if you don't want a big wedding, just be open about it and say.
It's so hard growing up as as an Indian woman not to want that big wedding because you attend all those big weddings, all your life, so you really want that yourself.
And then it's what about what's the community going to say? What are people going to think? Is it a sign? We almost overthink. I'll tell you what. The goals. That's a big topic, and I think because we're going to run out of time, I think let's finish on this one, and then maybe we can pick the rest up in another.
Yeah, definitely.
But just this question to yourself, and I don't mind answering it myself as well. But tell me about your own financial goals, Neelam.
Really simply, buying a property for now. and being completely debt free. I'm nearly there. I'm like so tantalizingly close. And some of the principles that I'm following are sort of that I'm putting on hold like big saving mode until I've really paid everything off. You know, and I want to be very open about that. So even though I'm talking about budgeting and everything, I'm still not there 100%. So buying property and having a really good emergency fund in place.
Yeah, excellent.
What about you?
When do you, sorry, just going to answer that. When do you want to achieve that by? If you were to set a time?
All in all, so by the time I hit 40, which is scarily in 2 years.
Gave away your age there, but it's fine. We're the same age. I think that's why we get on as well, right?
I don't mind. I'm proud.
It is important. I think it's important for people to know, because let's be realistic as well, right? We don't want people to start thinking, oh, you know, these are 20-year-olds have got their head screwed on. We're not. We're people that have made mistakes.
Definitely not.
And no, great. Again, I'm going to sound really cliche, and I don't have a specific goal as such. I didn't really say I want to be rich, or I don't want to be. I'm not going to say I want to be a millionaire. I just want a way, a means to be able to sort of generate passive income through sensible investing. And you know, if I were to go further and just elaborate, you know, people often, and I've used this in one of my videos, so I don't mind talking about this as well, but retirement, there's this wrong impression of retirement being when I hit 65 and that's it, retirement. Okay, if you're someone that just likes a balanced life, which I think as we're becoming more aware of now about people's, you know, even that working from home and you got a few days in the office, and so these you know, companies are moving more towards balanced life. They're moving more towards flexibility with children. You know, when I say having freedom, I want to have time to do a couple of days doing my own thing. I want to have a day, or you know, to just basically spend time with my daughter or spend time with kids, etc. A few days working. And I think the only way you can sort of do that by having, you know, the option of free time is by having sensible investments. So, you know, if you're doing things in the background, if you've, you know, paid into your pension or had some investments or invested into property or you know, crowdfunding or cryptocurrency, whatever you choose to do, then that gives you the option. And I think that's what it's all about for me. It's not about, I don't want to say I'm going to get to 65 and that's it, click my fingers, stop working. I almost want to transition and allow that to happen over the next sort of 30 years. I'm 38 as well. And I've always said by about 55, I want to be completely done with work. And when I say work, it's just the day job.
A day job, yeah. That's really, I love the sound of that. That's sort of, you hear a lot of people talking about that financial freedom.
Yeah.
And what time they can, the financial freedom number. I mean, we can go, I don't know, I don't know much about that, but I've seen people figure it out, you know, what you need to survive on a monthly basis and how much money you need to save up or invest to be able to reach that. So I love that.
Just say that, the day job, but doesn't mean at 55 I'm going to stop working. It just means that
no, it's a different,
I might want to do other things. But hopefully there's enough income coming in through sensible investments that it's allowing me to spend 2 days working on a charity or 2 days working on an NGO or doing something else. But that's what I'm doing. I'm
sitting on a beach somewhere. That would, that sounds great for right now, even. That I can see how that might be a goal once you've perhaps achieved that sort of buying a property and then actually thinking about the next step. So, you know, I'm right behind you. So, but you know, I could talk about this for ages, and there's so much. I've actually still got a few questions, which maybe we can touch on another.
Definitely.
Another occasion. And I know we've also talked a little bit about some other really fun topics like money and relationships and how to manage that. So
that's a controversial one. But yeah, we've got lots of topics to discuss, and you know, I guess hopefully people can watch this and get a little bit of enlightenment, a little bit of education. And if there's anything anyone else wants to talk about, then maybe just drop a comment in or something and
let us know. So I think roughly the plan is that this was sort of like a, you know, bit of a get to know each other, get to know, you know, for others to get to know us, and you know, we'll be sort of doing, you know, videos on different topics. It'll be a bit shorter, a bit more instructional, and talking, you know, more specifically about topics. So watch out for the updates on what will be the next topic.
Yeah, cool. Okay, well,
lovely chatting to you, Walid, and I will
Have a good
Speak
weekend.
to you soon. Take care.